So I want to love video games. And believe me, I do love video games. And now there are more video games than ever. And yet it seems like it's really hard to find ones that hook you and that you can enjoy all the way through and keep that experience with you. Now I've been thinking about this a lot lately because madlittlepixel put out a video called, "Is there something wrong with me, or do video games not leave a lasting impression anymore?" And I thought, hey, let's try to answer that question. The best way we can go about this is define, how do I know if a game is for me? First and foremost, is it the story that the game brings to the table? One of the advantages of games over any other medium is that they can put you in the story. And I mean, they really put you in the story. And I think retro games are a perfect example of this. When you're playing, let's say, Super Mario Brothers, there's not a huge amount of story there, but you mentally put yourself inside that character, and you're trying to get that character through all the trials and tribulations to the end. You feel the losses and you feel the pain of trying to learn and grow with the game. Now, a lot of newer games, they kind of hold your hand and they don't allow you to make part of the story yours. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of hand-holding if that's what the devs have in mind, but I think most people who play video games are best at learning by doing. And that's that distinct thing that puts you in the game. Now, I'm not saying a game can't have a great story that sucks you in. I've had that happen recently with Guardians of the Galaxy. I really liked the presentation and the way the story sucked me in. It was way more of a experience going through the story than it was any type of gameplay. Now, is that an experience I'll hang on to for a long time? I think maybe. And why? Well, we'll get to that in a little bit here. But one of the things I keep seeing being brought up is maybe there's too many games. So there's a lot of games out there, right? And with all the choices, it should be easier than ever to find that game that hooks you. It's difficult. You might play 20, 30 games before one actually resonates with you and draws you in enough to want to play it more and more. But oversaturation doesn't help things. I look at it the same way I look at music. The music industry is so oversaturated at this point. Now, when I was growing up, it used to be you had several outlets for music. There would be like MTV or the radio, and then there'd be a more underground way to get music through word of mouth. Or sometimes you just look at the cover and you pick it up and you go, all right, I'm going to give this a shot because I like the way the cover art looks. And games used to be kind of similar to that. You kind of took a chance on them. And because you're taking a chance, I think you were a little more invested in what you were taking a chance on. And that brings me to my next point. Perhaps with more and more experience, it makes it harder to find new things novel. You know, we've had so much experience in our lives, and there's so many games out there that if we get the same old thing, it kind of doesn't do it for us. Now, are there exceptions to this? Of course. Well, I think number one, it takes an emotional attachment. Take a game like Cuphead. That's a game that I really enjoy. And why do I enjoy it? Because there's so much emotional attachment to it. I really love the presentation, but I also get really angry at the game. Well, you could say I get angry at myself because I have difficulty overcoming some of the challenges of the game. But also, when you do overcome the challenges, you have this feeling of triumph. And it's those emotional connections that you're having that really make the experience for you. Those are the things that we attach to and can call nostalgia even. You know, there's other ways to get that emotional connection too. Take a game like Bloodstained. That game had me strategizing, and it would reward me by giving power-ups that made you feel super powerful. And it's those feelings of reward for using your noggin, and then being able to feel like a god over things gives you an emotional impact. So again, emotional attachment is one of the big things that a game needs to establish in order to get you to have that experience of a lasting impression. Now, number two, maybe it can be attached to something that I already have nostalgia for. So this could be a game like Mega Man. They just recently announced some old Mega Man games coming out. People are pumped about it. And then when Mega Man 11 came out a couple years back, I was pumped about it, and I loved playing it. I played all the way through it. It's a memorable game in my experience. Would it have that if I didn't have that emotional attachment or nostalgia for Mega Man? I doubt it. And this can go on to other things like a franchise like Ghostbusters, perhaps. A couple years back, I picked up the remastered Ghostbusters because it had all of the original cast together telling a Ghostbusters story. And just that fact alone, that I could spend some time with these characters that I have grown to love, made the game worth playing. Is it something that impacted me greatly? No, but I do appreciate that I had that experience going through Ghostbusters and having a whole new story to add to the canon. So for number 3, there's games that are novel, yet they're familiar. So a game like Undertale reminds me of a lot of other games I've played. It's a classic RPG, kind of like Earthbound, but it remixes that concept in a way that makes it a novel experience. And I don't want to ruin it for anybody out there, but when I first figured out what that twist was that makes this different than other RPGs, besides the awesome humor that's in the game, I was blown away. And then add on top of that some of the tricks that the game does that I had never seen before, especially that ending. Pow, you can't have a gaming experience like that only once in a lifetime. Another similar game like that would be like the Stanley Parable. That's a great game if you haven't played it yet, and kind of familiar, but also like nothing you've ever played. See, but it's those things that are novel and new, but they're very familiar as well. So you're combining those two things. Because we as humans, we want things that are familiar. It's hard to trust things that are new and novel. But you combine the two, and it makes it a much more easy experience to take in. Not that we want easy in our games, but maybe I should say digestible. And last but not least, I think that giving the game a fair shot is something that we don't always do. A lot of us give up on new games before we even understand what we're playing. We might not like the control schemes, we might not get where the story's going at first, and you're in the game about 20 minutes to an hour, and you're just like, this game blows. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with giving up on a game, especially if it doesn't grab you at first. And I think that they make games so varied and so widely now that it's okay to pass up on some of these games. And of course, the cream will rise to the top of the crop. And eventually, if you hear enough good things about a game, you could go back to it and be like, what am I missing that everybody else sees? And find that thing. But I'd really like to open this up for a discussion with you guys. And by the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with madlittlepixel. I think that some video games just don't leave a lasting impression. But what do you think? Do you find that less and less games leave a lasting impression with you? Why or why not? I've enjoyed reading people's takes on this. I'm kind of a fan of human psychology anyway, so this kind of stuff's really interesting. By the way, if you like this video, it'd be awesome if you watch some of our other videos. We've got a wide variety on here, but I'm not here to plug things. I'm just here to talk, give some insights, give some input, and then listen to what you guys have to say. So with that being said, see you soon.